Ladies and gentlemen, Rigathi Gachagua once said these words.
Huyu Kasongo ameua watoto wetu. Kweli ama uongo? Jezi mpo? Jezi mpo? Mimi nauliza, kama huyu Ruto anaua watoto wetu, nyinyi viongozi ya hapa Kiambu mnaona ameua watoto, mnakuja hapa kutuambia tumfuate. Mnafikiria sisi kichwa yetu ni mbaya? Ni madharau, si madharau? Sasa kijana ameuawa pale Nairobi, anaitwa Ojwang. Ameuawa na Deputy Inspector General of Police anaitwa Lagat. Si ndio? Na huyo ni mtu ya Ruto na Murkomen. There is a squad, a killer squad of 101 officers ambaye walitoka AP wakaingizwa katika National Intelligence Service. Hao ndio wamefanya kazi ya abduction na kuua Gen Z. William Ruto sasa amechukua huyu Lagat, amemfanya komanda ya hiyo kikosi. Ndio huyu mtu anaitwa Ojwang amewekwa Central Police Station. Huyu Lagat ametuma watu wameenda pale wameua yeye. Sasa pale Senate na National Assembly wanajaribu kufanya cover up. Huyu anajulikana mwenye kumuua. Tunataka kuambia William Ruto, huyu mtu yako anaitwa Lagat akamatwe, aende kotini, ashitakiwe na kifo.
The key suspects to Albert Ojwang murder case was arraigned in court of law, and ladies and gentlemen, I followed all that proceeding, and there is this thing that I realized after listening to the high power who are the complainant in this case. I also listened to the part of none other than James McCann, and I just realized that government might be trying to frame this case to none other than James McCann. Well, in this analysis, I just want to tell you why the government might be trying to frame this case, knowing very well that the police constable James McCann was not the suspect who unalived none other than Albert. Ladies and gentlemen, before I deep dive into this analysis, don't forget to like this video, comment, and most importantly, just subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if by any chance you're watching us from a different platform, kindly head over to YouTube, search for Creative Silence TV. If politics, war, and documentaries is all you're passionate about, ladies and gentlemen, let's get a deep dive into it.
Ametupangia mambo si mzuri, na tukifanya makosa tumrudishe. Kwa sababu kama anatufanyia namna hii na agaji anataka kura zetu, na akipata ametupangia mambo si mzuri. Yeye mwenyewe, ile waziri anaitwa Murkomen na DIG anaitwa Lagat, wote watu ya kabila moja. Rais Murkomen na Lagat watu ya kabila moja. Ndio wamepanga jama ya kuangaisha viongozi ya Mlima Kenya. Huyu mjumbe ya Juja, George Koiburi, alitekwa nyara juzi na maafisa ya polisi. Jana pale Kakamega, askari walikuwa wamepangwa 300. Na wako wale kama 20 ambaye wanatoka ile sub community inaitwa Nandi. Walikuwa wamepewa kazi ya kumuumiza John Medho, yule senator wa Nyandarua. Na hiyo ni mpango ya Rais Murkomen na Lagat. Hata ile walikuwa wamenipangia maaskari pale wanipatie poison vile walifanyia Kenneth Matiba, ndio ubongo yangu iharibike nishindwe kuongoza hii jamii. Walikuwa ni watu ya jamii yake.
Well, listening to Rigathi Gachagua's words is what we are going to measure on our first point, which, ladies and gentlemen, is such a simple terms. William Samoei Ruto and the police IG and the DIG are just trying to be a scapegoat towards this case. Ladies and gentlemen, according to the post that was made with Maverick Aoko, who is an online political blogger, he shared a tweet on his X page saying that at the time when Albert Ojwang was being unalived in Central Police Station, none other than James McCann was not on duty that day, which raised several questions Why was he among the people? Why was he the main key prime suspect in this case? In Kenya, there's this notion of watu notion. Ladies and gentlemen, if by any chance William Samoei Ruto will seriously take this case strongly to Lagat side, people of his area will ask him, bro, instead of protecting our own, you ended up killing him. Ladies and gentlemen, there was this time when none other than Kibet Bull, a guy, a blogger on Twitter, who was also abducted, as others were being unalived, Kibet Bull was seriously, even though wanasema ati alishikwa, but there are some speculations that alikuja na online anasema aje ati sijui aliachwa Rwanda akapelekwa wapi. Ladies and gentlemen, instead of being abducted, people are lamenting free Kibet Bull, na yeye ile side ingine nasikia anaenda mpaka kwa disco matanga. So he protected Kibet Bull, knowing very well that Kibet is from his kinsmen, and if by any chance Kibet could have been unalive, several people from his kinsmen wangemuuliza, man, you have been abducting people and now umefika mahali mpaka umekuja unashika people from our own motherland na unawaua. How do you expect us to trust you with our lives hata kwa hii country? If you cannot protect your brothers, who will trust you? How do you think? How will you sell yourself to those people, knowing very well that those are your people, are the people who took you to power, and in this case you cannot even afford to protect one of them, even though anakupiga online. So this was just a well orchestrated plan to protect and defend none other than Albert, to defend Kibet Bull. So this guy is also trying to protect the DIG in this case, because anajua vizuri jamaa akitoka hapo nje, akitoka nje ya police station, because these people understand very well that if by any chance Lagat anaweza toka na awachiliwe, being that sasa hana power bana, nakwambia the kind of anger that citizens have na wasijua ati huyu ndio ni Lagat, I think that jamaa itafika jioni kama bado napumua. Hiyo ni ukweli. So the guy is just trying to protect his kinsmen. Ladies and gentlemen, the second reason why I feel that the government is trying to frame this case is these guys are just trying to blackmail us from the real reality, ladies and gentlemen. According to these people, well, according to IPOA, they are saying that the deceased right now, Albert Ojwang, was taken to Karura Forest, where these people always torture and unalive the people who are abducted. Well, I was keenly following the witness who were aligned there, the culprit who were just sent, who were captured the other night, and they were saying that Albert Ojwang was screaming at night when they arrived, when he was being beaten on the other cell. Ladies and gentlemen, so what does this one mean? So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are a wise person, you could have just realized, because so some sources are revealing that Albert Ojwang was taken from Karura Forest, and in fact, upon arriving in Central Police Station, the guy had alikuwa akukua a serious condition na his condition was deteriorating and alikuwa kwa worse condition. So listening to this witness saying that he was being beaten on the other side of the room, ladies and gentlemen, raises several questions. Who was beating him and who took him to Karura Forest and why? So this is just a way of blackmailing and creating confusion in this case. And ladies and gentlemen, I can assure you that we should be prepared that in near future, James Makwena will be granted a free bill or bond, and he will be walking outside the court. The constable will be walking, and the court will say that, you know what, tumekusimamisha kazi kidogo, and this case itapelekwa tu hivi until and at the end of the day, if Kenyans will not pressurize and look this thing on a wider lens, ladies and gentlemen, I think that justice that we are right now lamenting seriously for Ojwang will not be served because the government, the way that the government always orchestrate and plan its ideas, as you are thinking right now, wao wanafikiriaga 3 times ahead. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know your own thoughts on comment section. Why do you think that government might be plotting this case against none other than James McQuena? At last, I was your host, Silas.